What if I told you that no one has ever truly hurt you? That every wound you carry exists only because, somewhere deep inside, you gave them permission to touch what was never theirs? Think about it. You've been betrayed by someone you trusted, overlooked by people you gave your heart to, used by those who promised loyalty. You've built walls around your kindness, sworn to never care too much again. But despite the armor, despite the distance, the pain keeps finding you. Why? Because the pain was never out there, it was always within. We spend our lives trying to protect ourselves from others, from their opinions, their rejection, their cruelty. But Machiavelli, the man history branded as ruthless, would tell you something different. He'd say that no one can harm you unless you let them define your worth. That strength doesn't come from being untouchable, but from understanding how people, power, and perception truly work. For centuries, the world has misunderstood him, mistaking wisdom for malice, strategy for cruelty. But what if his cold logic was never about manipulation? What if it was about liberation? About seeing through the illusions that make us victims of our emotions? Because when you stop needing people to behave a certain way, you stop giving them power over your peace. And that, perhaps, is the beginning of a kind of freedom no one can take from you. Before we go deeper, I want you to stay until the very end of this video. Because if you truly understand Machiavelli's lesson, you will never see emotional pain the same way again. If this message already speaks to you, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you're the first to receive every new piece of insight I share. Now, let us go deeper into the truth about pain and why most of it was never yours to begin with. Most people believe pain comes from what others do to them, from betrayal, rejection, or disappointment. But the truth is far more uncomfortable. Pain begins the moment reality refuses to match your expectations. You thought that person would love you back. You thought loyalty guaranteed loyalty. You thought your kindness would protect you. Yet every wound that followed wasn't created by their action alone. It was born from the story you told yourself about what should have happened. That story is the true source of your suffering. We live inside invisible contracts that no one ever agreed to. If I'm honest, you'll be honest. If I give my best, you won't leave. If I stay loyal, you won't betray me. But the world doesn't operate by our emotional logic. People act from who they are, not from who we imagine them to be. Carl Jung once said that, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. What hurts you most is not the event itself, it's the unconscious expectation that people will think, feel, or value like you do. When they don't, your mind interprets that mismatch as pain, as injustice, as betrayal. Sigmund Freud had a similar observation. Human beings are ruled by hidden drives, fear, desire, ego, and survival, long before rational thought arrives. What we call heartbreak or disappointment is often our ego's inability to accept that we never truly knew the other person at all. The truth is, pain is not evidence of cruelty in others. It's evidence of blindness within us. You see, the emotionally weak are not those who feel too deeply. They are those who refuse to understand what they feel. Emotional sensitivity can be a superpower, but without awareness, it becomes self-destruction. Think of it this way. A storm only destroys a house that wasn't built to withstand it. When your peace depends on someone's behavior, you've built your house on sand. The slightest gust, a word, a look, a broken promise, collapses it. But when your peace depends on understanding, not control, you can stand even in chaos. We've been taught to take everything personally. Every silence as rejection, every disagreement as attack, every failure as proof that we are not enough. Yet none of it is personal. People see the world through the lens of their own wounds, just like you do. What they say, what they do, what they project, it's their unconscious trying to survive. Jung called this the shadow, the repressed part of the psyche that we hide, yet project onto others. When someone's words cut deep, it is often because they accidentally touched a part of your own shadow. a truth about yourself you've then never faced. That's why it hurts. Not because of them, but because they've revealed something you've buried. Most people run from this realization because it's easier to blame than to understand. But every time you blame, you give away your power. You turn your own emotions into someone else's responsibility. And that's how you become enslaved, not by chains, but by reactions. The path to emotional freedom doesn't begin with protecting yourself from others. It begins with learning to see without illusion, to recognize the human drives at play beneath every interaction. The colleague who belittles you is projecting insecurity. The partner who withdraws, ascend to punishing you. They re-hiding from their own fear of intimacy. The friend who betrays you, ascend the evil. They re-driven by unmet desires they don't even understand. When you see this clearly, you stop asking, why did they do this to me? And start asking, what part of me believed they couldn't? That question is liberation. Because the moment you stop expecting people to live by your emotional script, you stop suffering every time they don't. If this truth resonates with you, I want to hear your story. Tell me in the comments, when was the moment you realized that your pain wasn't really about the other person? I'll be reading your comments, and I'll respond personally to the ones that speak from the heart. Niccolò Machiavelli is often remembered as the father of manipulation, the patron saint of power games. But that reputation hides a deeper truth. He wasn't teaching people how to deceive others. He was teaching them how not to be deceived. He lived in a brutal world. Betrayal was politics, kindness was weakness, and good men were crushed by illusions. So he decided to write not about how the world should be, but how it really is. And that distinction between illusion and reality is what can free you from emotional pain. Machiavelli wrote, "Men judge more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see, but few can feel." In other words, people don't live by truth. They live by appearances. They respond not to your essence, but to the image you project. The sooner you understand that, the sooner you stop expecting fairness, honesty, or emotional reciprocity from those who are still ruled by self-interest. That's not cynicism, it's clarity. Machiavelli believed that depending on the goodness of others was a dangerous kind of blindness. It is better, he said, to be both loved and feared, but if you must choose, it is safer to be feared. Now modern people hear that and recoil. But what he really meant wasn't about cruelty, it was about respect. When you build your life hoping to be loved by everyone, you make yourself emotionally available to everyone, and therefore manipulable by anyone. But when you carry yourself with quiet strength and clear boundaries, people may not always love you, but they will never forget that crossing you comes at a cost. That's not coldness, that's self-respect. In the modern world, Machiavelli's wisdom is everywhere if you look closely. At work, it's called office politics. The naive employee believes merit alone determines success. The strategic one understands that perception, timing, and leverage decide everything. In relationships, it's the same. The person who always explains, pleads, and apologizes loses power because they trying to win emotional fairness in a world that doesn't trade in fairness. And on social media, it's the same spectacle. Everyone curating appearances, selling stories, projecting control. Machiavelli would have smiled. Nothing has changed. We still judge by what we see, not by what we understand. But here's the paradox. Once you see through this illusion, you don't become more manipulative, you become more free. You stop taking rejection personally because you understand that most people act out of fear or desire, not malice. You stop chasing approval because you realize that the crowd doesn't love you. They love what you give them. Validation, beauty, entertainment, hope. And you stop trying to control others because you finally recognize the limits of power. The only kingdom you can truly rule is your own mind. Machiavelli's brilliance wasn't that he told rulers how to conquer. It is that he told them how to survive the hypocrisy of human nature. And that lesson applies not just to princes, but to anyone trying to stay sane in a manipulative world. So ask yourself this: how many of your disappointments came from believing that people were like you? How many times did you get hurt, not because someone was cruel, but because you couldn't accept that they were simply human, fragile, fearful, self-centered, inconsistent? The Machiavellian way to peace is not through control, but through comprehension. When you understand the machinery of human motives, you stop being shocked every time it runs. You don't have to be ruthless. You don't have to play games. You only have to see. And once you see, you can no longer be hurt by what is predictable. That's the secret. Awareness replaces suffering. The world hasn't suddenly become good. You've simply stopped expecting it to be. And that is where strength begins. If this part resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share in the comments what Machiavelli's lesson means to you, or a moment when clarity made you stronger than emotion ever could. I'll be reading and responding personally to the ones that stand out. Let us bring Machiavelli's lesson out of the pages of philosophy and into the chaos of real life, where love, ambition, and ego constantly collide. Because the truth is, the world you live in today runs on the same invisible forces that Machiavelli described centuries ago. The names have changed, but human nature hasn't. Take the modern workplace. You've probably seen it: the quiet, competent employee who works tirelessly but gets overlooked for promotion. And then there's another one, less talented, more politically aware, who always seems to rise. The difference? One believes effort alone earns recognition. The other understands that perception is reality. Machiavelli would tell you, the world rewards those who understand appearances, not those who resent them. You can see this everywhere. The worker who stays silent when disrespected, believing their humility will eventually be noticed, becomes invisible. Meanwhile, the one who sets boundaries, calmly, firmly, commands respect without ever raising their voice. It's not arrogance. It's strategy. Being good, in a Machiavellian sense, isn't about being submissive. It's about knowing when to withdraw, when to speak, and when silence itself is the most powerful statement. Now think about relationships, romantic or otherwise. How many times have you seen someone give everything, their time, their patience, their emotional energy, only to end up depleted and resentful? They confuse unconditional love with unconditional availability. But the more available you are, the less you are valued. Machiavelli would call this a miscalculation of power. When someone can predict your every reaction, your forgiveness, your affection, your pursuit, you become emotionally predictable and therefore powerless. Contrast that with the person who is kind but measured, loving but with discernment. When they pull back, it's not out of manipulation, but out of awareness. The understanding that connection must be mutual, not coerced. That person isn't cold. They're sovereign. They've stopped playing emotional roulette. Even friendships operate under this law. The friend who always listens, always helps, always says yes, soon becomes the emotional dumping ground for everyone else's chaos. But the one who listens deeply and sets limits becomes a mirror for growth. Because when you teach people how to treat you, they either rise to meet you or fall away. Either outcome brings peace. Social media is perhaps the most Machiavellian theater of them all. It's where people build empires of image, where outrage becomes currency and vulnerability becomes strategy. Many fall into the trap of believing authenticity means exposure. But true authenticity is selective transparency, sharing from strength, not from a wound still bleeding. If Machiavelli were alive today, he wouldn't condemn social media. He'd master it. He'd remind you that the power isn't in showing everything, but in showing intentionally, because influence is not about truth, it's about framing truth. Now, before you judge that idea as manipulative, pause for a moment. You already do this every day, at work, with your partner, online. You wear masks, not out of deceit, but out of necessity. Society functions on roles. The problem isn't the mask, It's forgetting who you are beneath it. Here is the deeper irony. When you finally stop resenting the world for being what it is, you can start playing within it consciously. That's not manipulation. That's maturity. You learn to stop bleeding your emotions into spaces that don't deserve them. You stop seeking validation from those who profit from your insecurity. And most importantly, you stop expecting fairness from a system designed for advantage. Machiavelli's world was filled with princes, spies, and intrigue. Yours is filled with managers, co-workers, partners, influencers. Different costumes, same psychology. And in both worlds, the same principle holds true. The one who sees clearly will always outlast the one who feels blindly. So the next time you feel overlooked, disrespected, or emotionally exhausted, don't ask, "Why are people like this?" Ask instead, "What expectation of mine allowed this to happen?" That question alone can transform pain into wisdom. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a moment where you realized someone's behavior wasn't personal? It was just human nature? Share your story or perspective in the comments below. I'll be reading and responding to your reflections. Knowledge only transforms you when it becomes practice. And the brilliance of Machiavelli is not in his theories about power. It is in how they reveal the way we unconsciously give our power away every single day. You don't need to rule a kingdom to apply his wisdom. You only need to learn how to rule your own emotions. So how do you do that? How do you walk through a world full of hidden motives without becoming cynical, guarded, or cold? The answer lies in something I call Machiavellian awareness. A way of seeing, not through fear, but through clarity. The first step, don't react, observe. When someone offends you, your instinct is to defend, explain, or retaliate. That's human. But every time you react impulsively, you hand them your energy. You make them the author of your emotional state. Instead, pause. Ask yourself, what is their motive? What are they trying to get from this interaction? Observation creates distance, and distance is power. It allows you to see patterns that others are blind to. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." When you observe without reacting, you are making the unconscious visible, both theirs and yours. Second, stop chasing love, start seeking understanding. Most suffering in relationships comes from confusing love with validation. You want to be seen, heard, valued, but often by people who don't even understand themselves. Machiavelli would tell you that love is unreliable because it depends on emotion, and emotion changes with the wind. Understanding, however, is stable because it's rooted in awareness. When you understand human nature, rejection no longer feels like a wound. It feels like information. You begin to see patterns, not betrayals. Lessons, not losses. Third, don't seek justice. Build strategy. Justice implies that the world is fair. It isn't. The moment you stop expecting fairness, you begin to act consciously instead of emotionally. You stop wasting time wishing things were different and start asking, given what is, how do I move wisely? Machiavellian awareness is not about manipulation. It's about realism. It's choosing effectiveness over outrage. This doesn't mean you abandon ethics. It means you stop expecting everyone to share yours. And finally, never confuse detachment with indifference. True detachment isn't about not caring. It's about caring consciously. It's the difference between drowning in emotion and swimming in awareness. When you stop trying to fix everyone, you give them the dignity of facing themselves. When you stop over-explaining, you give silence the power to reveal truth. And when you stop controlling outcomes, you give life room to unfold as it must. Jung described this as individuation, the process of becoming whole. To live consciously, to integrate your light and shadow, to stop projecting your wounds onto others. Because every time you say, "They hurt me," you are still unconsciously declaring, "They control me." Freedom begins when you realize that no one has that power unless you hand it over. Let me be clear, this isn't easy. You will still feel anger, sadness, disappointment, but you will learn to feel them without collapsing into them. You'll start to notice the spaces between the trigger and your response, and that is where your strength lives. Because between stimulus and response, there is awareness, and in awareness, there is choice. This is the path from victim to observer. The victim reacts, explains, pleads for understanding. The observer watches, learns, adapts. The victim says, "Why is this happening to me?" The observer asks, "What is this trying to teach me?" And in that shift, subtle but profound, your entire emotional architecture transforms. When you live as the observer, you don't suppress emotion, you master it. You use it as data, not as destiny. You become, in the truest sense, untouchable, not because you've built walls, but because you've built understanding. That's Machiavellian awareness, the art of seeing the game without losing your soul in it. Now it's your turn. Tell me in the comments which part of this resonated most with you. The pause before reacting, the shift from love to understanding, or the decision to stop expecting fairness. I'll be reading them carefully and responding to the insights that come from your heart. When you finally understand people, really understand them, something shifts inside you. The world doesn't suddenly become kinder, but it becomes clearer. And clarity is liberation. You stop hating people for being selfish. You stop resenting them for not meeting your expectations. Because you finally see that most of what they do has nothing to do with you. It is about their fears, their desires, their wounds. Every cruel word, every act of betrayal, every silence that once cut you open, all of it came from someone acting out of pain they never learned to face. And once you see that, your heart becomes untouchable. Not cold, not numb, untouchable. What used to break you now teaches you. What once triggered you now informs you. You no longer ask, "Why did they do this to me?" Instead, you ask, "What part of them needed to?" That question alone turns suffering into wisdom. Machiavelli, often dismissed as ruthless, was never teaching cruelty. He was teaching awareness. He understood that people act out of necessity, not virtue. And the one who suffers least is the one who accepts that truth without bitterness. He knew that when you depend on the goodness of others, you become vulnerable to their flaws. But when you understand their nature, you can navigate the world with calm precision instead of emotional chaos. That's not manipulation, that's maturity. Carl Jung once said, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people, because when you've met your own shadow, your pride, your insecurity, your fear, you stop demanding that others hide theirs. You stop moralizing, stop projecting, stop expecting everyone to live by your emotional code. This is what real peace feels like. Not a life free of conflict, but a mind free of illusion. You stop needing everyone to like you. You stop needing closure from those who hurt you. You stop seeking justice in a world that was never designed to be fair. Because now, awareness itself is justice. Understanding is closure. And paradoxically, that understanding makes you softer, not weaker, but wiser. You still care, but you care differently. You listen without losing yourself. You love without begging to be loved back. You forgive without reopening the wound. The people around you might think you've changed, become colder, more distant. But the truth is, you've just become conscious. You've stopped fighting battles that were never yours to fight. You've stopped expecting love from those who can't even love themselves. And you've stopped giving your peace away to people who never earned it. That's what it means to be untouchable. Not invincible, not heartless, simply awake. Machiavelli's misunderstood wisdom and Jung's timeless psychology meet in this one revelation. Freedom isn't found in controlling others. It's found in understanding them. Because once you understand the game, you stop taking it personally. Once you understand fear, you stop fearing people. And once you understand love, you stop mistaking attachment for connection. So when you reach that point, when you can see clearly, love wisely, and walk away peacefully, then truly, nothing and nobody will ever hurt you again. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. You've become the calm in the middle of chaos. The observer, not the victim. The strategist, not the reactor. You've become free. If these words resonated with you, don't let them fade. Take a moment to breathe and reflect on where in your life this truth needs to be applied. And if this video gave you something meaningful, a new way to see pain, people, or power, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to receive the next awakening conversation we share here. And finally, I want to hear your truth. Tell me in the comments, which part of this message spoke to your heart the most? Every week, I read your reflections, and your stories remind me that awakening doesn't happen alone. It happens here, together, one honest realization at a time.